Today, our guest is Michael Miller. Michael Miller is the co-founder of the New York Meditation Center and London Meditation Center. He teaches Vedic meditation full-time and is recognized as one of the leading experts in the field. Michael has taught thousands of people to meditate in group settings within organizations, including Wall Street firms and NGOs, as well as private clients around the world. He also leads the meditation retreats in India, Europe, and in the States. Michael is a sought-after speaker about stress, creativity, and meditation for tech companies, wellness conferences, business organizations, and finance and legal firms. Before we begin today's session, I'll go over a few logistical issues about our gathering. We're on a Zoom webinar, so participant audio and video are off, and you'll only see Michael and, for the time being, myself. For anyone unable to attend live, we are recording these sessions. You'll have a chance to view recordings as well as a schedule of upcoming programs at garrisoninstitute.org. We offer these sessions free of charge as a goodwill gesture to support our community during such times of heightened uncertainty. We would welcome donations of any amount to help us continue to offer these sessions. Thank you. Finally, we'll have time for Q&A during this gathering. You can post your questions in the Q&A panel, which is located at the bottom of your screen by hovering your arrow over the Q&A button. We're on for an hour today, and we'll respond to as many questions as we can. Please forgive us if we can't get to your question. And thank you again, Michael, for being with us, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, everyone. People who are attendees, can you give a little wave so that we know that you can hear me just fine? If you know how to do that, click down at the bottom and give a little wave, and I'll check in with Garrison and make sure they are hearing me just fine. My name is Michael Miller. I am co-director of London Meditation Center and also New York Meditation Center, and a longtime fan of
Hi all, this is Amy. So Michael's calling from London and they're having a bit of weather, so please be patient. He will be back shortly, as soon as
for about 15 years. I'm getting a little feedback there. Everyone hearing me all right? Very good.
Yes, good.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, so I have been living in London for about 15 years. I've been, like many people who are on the line, been in lockdown for about 6 weeks now, with the added excitement of lockdown schooling a 6-year-old, which is a pleasure and a challenge. I'd like to know where you all are, so I'm going to send out a little poll asking you where your location is. So you should see a little window pop up, and you can just tick where it is that you are. Okay, I'm starting to get answers coming in. Very good. You can just answer that top part, the where are you, multiple choice. We're seeing a few people in New York City, a lot of people surrounding the city, and then lots of people elsewhere in the UK. And I'm also looking further down Interesting to see our mix of women and men. I'm going to share this with you just in a moment. And then I'm asking, how are you experiencing stress right now? Stress, the response to a demand that we have a challenge meeting. And so I'm going to be very interested in this. I'm going to end the poll and share the results with all of you. So almost half, 43% elsewhere in the USA, outside of New York and outside of the immediate city. We've got a few people in Europe, got Central America and South America, and then elsewhere. So great. 76% women. And this is very interesting, very interesting. This is what we often see. Women are always ahead of the curve when it comes to self-care and to personal development. So well done, women, on this Zoom call. And well done to the men who are here, who are leading the way for our gender, because everyone needs to be developing and evolving right now. And then finally, how are you experiencing stress? Stress comes in different flavors. Stress is the fight or flight response, but the way we experience it and interpret it can be quite different. And clearly, the majority, nearly 60%, is anxiety and worry. And this is understandable in rapidly changing times for us to place ourselves in a space of clarity and ease is probably, for most of us, not the first response. And there are two pandemics now. There's the pandemic of the virus, which is significant and serious. And there is the fear pandemic that is engulfing the globe at the same time. And this, for ourselves, is something that we can have a very direct effect on. The fear response, or those other responses that I asked you about, that boredom, distraction, many people self-isolated and not able to work. And how much time are you spending looking at this little tiny box? I think one of the wonderful things about an event like this is a feeling of connection to a social fabric that is bigger than what we might be experiencing right here. A lot of people are having multiple video calls with work colleagues, with loved ones, maybe with relations who we might love but not like that much. People are in contact in a way that they feel they have to be, that maybe wouldn't be the first choice. And so much of it is just right here. One thing that's missing right now is the background fabric of social interaction, that we don't have the experience of standing in line at the coffee shop and having a little chat with the barista, or walking into the building and giving a wave to the parking attendant. Or today here in London, I stuck my head out the door early in the morning when the postal delivery guy came, someone who every day I would walk past and give a little wave, and I hadn't seen him for 6 weeks, and just have this moment of light, non-intense, not work, not family, not close friends, but it just is, again, understandable, and sometimes a little less than useful. Certainly being in that for an extended period is not going to be serving us. Grief, sadness, loss of friends or family members, loss of a lifestyle or an experience of living that we wish we could return to. and then denial and disconnection. And this, again, is an understandable part of integrating this current normal into our experience. What I would like you to do is take just a moment and grab something to write with and something to write on, piece of paper and a pen or whatever. Maybe not the screen. There's something about this that is more satisfying. So I'll give you just a moment to find that. By the way, you may notice there are a little bit of technical glitches. Zoom, I'm sure as many of you know, has been remarkable as a connecting device. Imagine if this were 10 years ago and we didn't have these ways to connect. It would have been a very different experience. And we're asking a lot. We're asking a lot of the Zoom platform. And also there is a storm here in London, which might be asking a lot of my internet connection. So if ever I freeze up momentarily or we zap out, don't worry. The Garrison crew is watching carefully. They are letting me know, and I will come right back and repeat whatever was missed. So on that piece of paper and with your pen, I want you to write down the main feelings you're having now. The one that you just marked in that poll. Was it anxiety? Was it grief? Was it irritation? Whichever that first one is, the primary response, and then the secondary and tertiary. What are the follow-up responses? Your emotional trends. I'm giving you a moment to write that down. And now I'd like you to take a moment and reflect on two different things: your coping mechanisms and your self-care, which sound similar, but there is a fine and important difference here. Coping mechanism, how am I getting through? How am I getting through the day? Some things might be sea salt and black pepper potato chips. That's a coping mechanism. It might be consuming the entire back catalog of Friends on Netflix. Things that I'm doing just to keep myself going. And then self-care. What am I doing with intention to make myself at my best, whatever best is in this moment? Whatever I can do to feel a little bit better, to function a little more effectively, to be more well, more graceful with other people. So reflect on your coping mechanisms. Just write down a few things you're doing, and then write down your self-care practices. Really good. Good. Anything you are doing to cope is a good thing. Whatever you need to do, whatever we need to do to get through this time is legitimate. And looking for things that are mere coping mechanisms and gravitating slightly to self-care can be a really useful differentiation. What is it that I'm doing? Back in the days when we flew, when you watched that video before you took off, there was a little bit where, you know, if the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first, then on the person next to you. And there is something about this. I was just having a very interesting talk with a hospitality industry organization, a bunch of restaurateurs who it's one of the places that is most impacted by this experience. And they were reflecting on the fact that the restaurant industry has stepped up and taking food to hospitals and supplying food banks, doing all of these things when they are most challenged. They are stepping forward. And we talked about how this is a function of that industry. They are in the caring industry. They are in the, how do I make sure these people, these customers, these diners have a wonderful experience? And they just transferred that right over, but perhaps a little bit to their own detriment, that they haven't turned the light back on. They haven't taken the time to put on the oxygen mask. And today I'm encouraging you to look for ways to do this. Now, the way I do this is I practice this technique that we call Vedic meditation. This is a simple eyes closed practice. You do this sitting in a chair with your eyes closed. You think to yourself a little mantra that was given to you, assigned, personalized by your teacher. And thinking that sound allows your mind to settle down and your body to rest very deeply. And this is what begins to rebalance and bring us back to what a biologist would call homeostasis. And there are ways that we can all do this. The fight or flight response is one that is very important in a very small number of circumstances. Only are there a few times when that fight or flight binary response is actually legitimate and relevant. And the body has developed this very intentionally over millennia, millions of years, really. It's good if you come face to face with a bear. All sorts of things happen. Your blood pressure goes up. That draws blood into the major muscle systems. Your heart starts to pound, delivering blood to those muscles. You start to breathe more heavily to oxygenate that blood. That's getting fuel to the muscle fibers. Your skin starts to get acidic. You don't taste very good when you're acidic. Your stomach starts to shut down digestion because that's not important when you are running away from a bear. And there's something very interesting that occurs in the immune system. The immune system is remarkable, doing dozens, perhaps even hundreds of things at any time. A few of these: fighting bacteria, of course, looking for viruses, looking for things like tapeworm, watching the body for mistakes, things like overgrowth of cells, early stage cancer, which is in all of our bodies all of the time. But because the immune system is watching, the immune system has this little picture of your body in perfect health. And it is watching for anything that is off. So if a parasite comes in, boom, it starts to attack that. If bacteria come in, there's a response. Those killer cells, those T cells, go out looking for overgrowth of cells and preventing cancer from developing. When we're in the fight or flight mechanism, something very specific happens because the body thinks, oh, I'm in danger. What's the most likely experience now? What is most likely to happen that the immune system needs to rev itself up for? And that is bacterial incursion. I might get bitten by the bear. As I'm running away, I might step on something or I might scrape against something. Bacteria is going to get in the body. And so the immune system starts releasing a whole army of lymphocytes that are coursing through your body looking for bacterial incursion. If you mobilize an army and it doesn't find an enemy, it will turn on itself. And so what happens if we are, for an extended period, in a fight or flight, in a stress response, and we don't get to play it out, we don't run away, we don't fight, we don't do those things, then those lymphocytes start to turn back and attack the body. They attack the connective tissue, and we develop rheumatoid arthritis. They move on to the heart. Rheumatoid heart disease comes about. It starts to attack the immune system. We get in autoimmune disease because the whole body is out of balance. It's trying to do something that is not actually the demand in the moment. So what we're looking to do is return to a balanced state. Fight or flight is the stress response. We're looking for stay and play, or sometimes called rest and digest. I'm going to lead you through a little exercise now. What I would like you to do is turn away from your computer just a little bit. Don't sit in the exact position that you sit when you are on the board meeting or when you're talking to your auntie or whatever it is. Just turn sideways or push your chair back, or even jump off and sit on the sofa next to the computer. Or you don't have to be right in front of your screen, of course, just where you can hear me. If you've got one of these devices nearby, it would be great to put it where you can't see it. If it's not already turned off, go ahead and put it on airplane mode or turn it all the way up, and then stuff it under a cushion or toss it into a drawer. Very interesting studies show that even if you know your phone is turned off, if it is within your field of vision, your ability of focus is reduced. So I'm a fan of the phone. It's a great thing to have, but not in this moment if it works for you. Set that aside. Get yourself comfortable. We're going to do an exercise that we call body feeling. And you can be absolutely comfortable. There's no need to be in any sort of posture. Don't hold your hands in any funny positions, just in the lap or on the armrest of the chair, or whatever. Be natural. Let your eyes go closed. And let your attention scan through. Go to your whole body. Scan the body with your attention. And as you do that, you will find that there is a dominant sensation. Somewhere, some sensation in your body, one place will be generating the dominant sensation. Maybe it's a little achiness in your low back. Maybe it's a funny twinge in your ankle from that run the other day. A little tickle under your nose. With the eyes easily closed, just allow that sensation to draw your attention. And witness this innocently. Don't concentrate. There's no need to mood make and think, oh, I'm drawing down angels of light to bring healing energy to my funny elbow. Just notice the feeling. And after a moment or so, you may find that your attention is drawn somewhere else. As that sensation begins to fade just a little, then some other sensation comes to the fore. A little twinge in your jaw, tightness between your brow. Hollow feeling in your stomach. And again, let your attention be drawn there. Attention alights on the sensation as easily as a mote of gold dust lands on the petal of a rose. No need to focus or concentrate. Again, another sensation. Some clothing pulling against some part of your body. The weight of your feet on the floor. When you find yourself in thought, this is good. The mind is designed to think and move. Be fine. Be fine with that. We're not trying to stop the mind. When you notice you're off in thought, return to the body sensation. And that sensation begins to melt and become less, and some secondary sensation becomes dominant. Thinking comes, come back to the body in a more subtle sensation. Air on the skin, temperature, heat in your chest, a chill on your ankles. If you're in thoughts, bring yourself back to sensation. Notice the very subtle sensation of your breath moving, the feeling of your stomach or your chest rising and falling, or that sensation of air puffing across your nostrils and upper lip. In thoughts, back to the breath. And back to the breath. If your eyes have come open, let them go closed again. Inhale deeply through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Inhale nose, exhale mouth. Once more. Give your hands a little rub together. Warm those palms up. If you know your hands are clean, you can press those hands against your eyes or against the side of your head and just let the hands slide down across the neck and to your chest. Keeping the eyes closed, rub the hands again. Put one hand on the back of the neck and one hand on the front of the neck and just gently, gently hold that center. Cradle your neck. And one last time, final rub, rub, rub. Really warm the hands up. One hand on your heart, another hand on your belly. Drop your head forward. And then with that head forward, you can slowly open your eyes. So you're looking to your lap or to the floor. And as you're ready, slowly raise your head. We call this body feeling. The body is speaking to us in the language of sensation, and it's telling us where the stress resides in the body, where the emotional response to that stress is. Stress is not in the mind, it's in the body. We might think something that creates the stress, or we might feel the stress and then start to have thoughts about it, but the stress itself is a physiological response. And so if we're having thoughts, anxious, angry, guilty, whatever they are, trying to bring the mind to a halt is a struggle. really frustrating. Hard work creates a strain. Mind is designed to move. So we allow it to move to the source, to the location where the stress is. And that then begins to facilitate some unwinding and some release. I'd like you to look back at the piece of paper where you wrote down the stress feelings that you are having, and see if, when you look at those words, you feel differently inside. If you wrote down anxiety, is it more a word on the piece of paper instead of an experience inside? Have you gained just a little bit of distance? Has it shifted just slightly? If it was grief, has the edge come off of that just slightly? Or are you perhaps a little bit more in touch with it, feeling a little more cleanly instead of resisting? Coming to the body, coming to what it is that's happening. The present is the only thing that's real. Past, done, doesn't exist. Future, imagined. We have no idea. And the perhaps challenging prospect I'll put to you, or proposal, is that the present moment right now, and actually much of the time, is okay. It's when I'm rehashing the past, or when I'm rehearsing and projecting and speculating about a future that probably will not come, or not as I'm imagining it anyway, that's when I start to get worked up. But in the present, actually right now, the room I'm in, a little bit cool, but that feels kind of pleasant. The sun is setting here in London. I'm getting some light filtering through. I even had to bring down a blind so it wasn't quite so bright behind. Gorgeous light coming in. I've got a cup of tea. It's a little bit lukewarm now, but it's still actually okay. Now I can begin to think about what might be occurring months from now, or think about what I should have done differently a year ago, if only I had known. What if, oh, but if only, all of that stuff. But right here, right now, a couple of aches and pains in the body from exercise, but actually feeling okay. The present moment is okay. To not be in the present is incredibly costly, because then we're not in reality. And in the present actually is the seed of the future. Everything that will occur is germinating now. It's here in seed form. Just like the acorn has the entire forest in that little nub. We just don't quite yet know how that's going to happen. Right now, in the present, is what will be happening for you in seed form. If I can be in the present, I'm more likely to detect that. I'm more able to see where is it that we are headed, and what is my personal role in evolution. Is evolution, progressive change, is all that is happening. That's all that's going on. If we draw back far enough, we can see change is happening and there's an upward stroke. Now, right now, there's bumpiness, and we don't deny this, and we don't ignore it. We don't pretend, we don't mood make. No, we, as people on this call, are people who are paying attention and intentionally putting our attention on the high end. What's the best that's happening now? Of course, there's some not good. Of course. And we don't want to be mood makers. We don't want to pretend. We don't want to be Pollyanna. Oh, no, no. We don't want to live in denial. Oh, don't tell me about this stuff. And we can make choices. How much news am I consuming? I would say about 5 minutes a day is enough. Go to a trusted written news source and read the headlines, and then turn it off. Because the media, and I'm a fan of good reporting and good journalism, and the media as an industry is about capturing your attention and holding it and delivering advertising. And what captures our attention? Scary things. Us reading or watching lots of first-person reports about other people's suffering causes us to suffer, and suffering spreads. So limit your consumption. Just like we want to take care what we're putting into our mouths and metabolizing in our body right now. A few potato chips, fine. Some nice taste, great. And if I'm only eating potato chips, there's going to start to be an effect. A little bit of rubbish television, fine, good coping mechanism. Only watching that and lots of it, I will start to intellectually bloat in the same way that my physiology would bloat if I was eating terrible stuff only. If you watch terrible stuff only, if you consume the worst of the news cycle and allow them to capture your eyeballs and monetize that, then you are consuming rubbish. And don't do that. Don't do that. Limit it. You'll find that you feel differently. And 5 minutes is enough to get a sense of what's happening out there and make good decisions for yourself. This is the other thing about being in the present and not being in the fight or flight mechanism. Part of that mechanism, the prefrontal cortex, the higher reasoning, moral judgment, long-term planning part of the brain starts to shut down because those things not important when you're running from a bear. What fires up when you're stressed? The back of the brain, the reptilian brain, the limbic system, very ancient and does something different. Deepak Chopra says the reptilian brain is in charge of the 3 F's: fighting, feeding, and procreation. These things are getting enough attention. They'll get the attention that they need in the moment. We don't need to be encouraging that. What we need to be moving toward is this higher, more human part of the brain, and finding ways to come into the present and be more still and take care of ourselves is the way into that. If we are in that reactivity, then that just shuts down. Just shuts down and we move to this. All right, I'd like to do another exercise. You remember those movies from the 30s, 40s, maybe even into the 50s? Someone was getting super worked up and hyperventilating, getting hysterical, and the leading man would come up wearing a hat and chiseled jaw and smack the person across the face and say, "Come to your senses, man." Come to your senses. This exercise is there's going to be no slapping involved. Coming to the senses. The senses can only be in the present. So again, move yourself away from your screen. Take a moment. I'm going to stop my video for a moment just so you don't get distracted by me, and you can tune in to your own senses and start with what you can see. Look around your room. Maybe you've been staring at this room a lot, and there's some things you haven't been noticing or taking in. The way the light's coming in through that window, and the play of shadow and light across the wall, or the way there's a vague reflection off that glass or off the surface of that plant's shiny leaves. Those colors over there. Those two shades of red that just don't quite match but complement each other so beautifully. How far can you cast your eyes from where you're sitting right now? Beyond the 20 inches to your screen to the far wall. Or maybe you can crane your neck just a little bit and look down a hallway. Or maybe if you sit up straight, you can see over the edge of a windowsill out to a tree or to an adjoining building, or even further. Maybe you're somewhere where you can see all the way to the horizon. Bringing your attention in close, up close, what textures are there? Slick, rough, nubbed. Turn to the sense of smell. What can you smell where you are? That meal from earlier. The room I'm in has a little dusty, musty smell. Maybe someone down the hall is making coffee. Maybe a window's open and, like in many cities, you're smelling fresh air in a way that you haven't smelled for a very long time. Taste. Can you taste a bit of the flavor from that last meal? Or a little bit of that dark chocolate you had earlier? Or that hard candy that you were sucking on? Or maybe just the soft, sweet taste of bliss chemistry in the back of your throat. Turn to touch. What are you leaning against? Where is your body touching other parts of your body? What's the feeling of weight in your seat? Can you feel fabric on your lower back? And turn to the sense of hearing. If your eyes aren't closed already, let them go closed. I can hear a train in the distance. You can hear my voice. Maybe there are other sounds right there in the room. Maybe there are sounds outside that room in the building that you're in. Maybe even further away, out on the street or down the road. Can you hear the sound of your own body, your breath, or your heart beating? Good. Very good. When you're ready, bring yourself back to your preferred seat. We'd like to check in and see if any questions have come up. You can go to the Q&A section. So if you click down below and you have some questions you'd like to ask, please type those in there. It would be wonderful to hear from you. Matthew is asking, he's saying thank you for the pleasant practice. Just curious, is this Vedic meditation? So no, Vedic meditation, thank you for asking us, Matthew. These are little exercises that give us a peek into the experience that can come about from a regular meditation practice. And there are lots out there, of course. We live in such fortunate times. Incredible. If you think back to the historical Buddha in North India, what did it take for the information that that enlightened being had to get to the number of disciples that he had during his lifetime? How slowly did information move? And thousands of people were raised to an enlightened state by him at a time of great, great difficulty. Here we are, having experienced the amazing, amazing people that I'm so humbled to be sharing this screen with, who've been on previous and who will be on upcoming Garrison events. Please check those out, both the recorded versions on YouTube and the ones that are upcoming. Vedic meditation is taught in a very specific way. It is done in person. You learn a mantra and you practice that in a silent, eyes closed experience on your own. You're very welcome to go to one of my websites, either newyorkmeditationscenter.com or londonmeditationcenter.com. You can have a look there and learn a little bit more. And I'd love to be in touch if that's something of interest. Laura saying, define self-care again. So the difference between coping and self-care. Coping is, what do I do to get through? Self-care is, what am I doing to grow and develop and nourish? And self-care, we like to lean toward a bit more of that versus coping, which is just getting me through the present moment. Also legitimate, and I want to be really clear about that. There is no need to condemn yourself or anyone else for what is being done to get through. And as people whose intent it is to evolve and be beacons for the world, let's lean towards self-care a little bit. Good. D asking, are these escape mechanisms because it temporarily subsided the emotions and feelings, but they're lurking to resurface? This is a wonderful question. This is not about getting rid of the feeling. It's about allowing the feeling to move. I remember a few years ago, I read a blog post and someone said they had some incident at the airport with security. And this woman wrote, you know, it's been almost 24 hours and I'm still shaking with rage. And I thought, oh, you know, rage is a really important response in a very limited number of situations for a very short time. And if you are raging 24 hours later about something that's not in front of you, you are doing damage to yourself, to your own body. So I'm not saying don't feel what you feel. I'm saying allow your body to process the feeling. Think about a toddler. They're basically happy. They fall down, they scrape their knee, they cry, someone takes away their toy, they're absolutely furious. And then 80 seconds later, they're giggling and running off and playing again. This is natural human experience of emotion flowing through, not holding on to it. And I would posit that you I'm getting a message that I froze for just a moment. I would posit that you suffering is not helping the other people around you. You suffering is actually increasing the suffering of the world. You allowing an emotion to move through is the way to go. Thanks, Dee. I'm going to answer a couple more. How do you balance living in the present with planning for the future? Yeah. Don't worry, the future is coming. And if you're living in the moment, it's going to be clear at the fine level of feeling what is the best thing to do next. Being in the intellect, our intellects are terrible predictors of the future. No one, even all the experts, they had models, but nobody predicted that we were going to be where we are right now. Even 3 months before any of this happened, you had ideas a year before that, 15, 18 months ago. You thought you were going to know, you thought you were planning for your future, and it was totally different. Intellect is terrible at prediction. So don't get caught up in speculation, in what Vyasa, one of the great masters of our tradition, called sloppy guesswork. Sloppy, trying to figure out. Be in the present and pay attention and move towards that which attracts to you. Because if you are in a calm space, you are going to be able to detect at a finer level what's most important for you right now. All right. Someone's saying, and this is very nice, Mary Ellen, thank you. These small guided practices have already registered in my body with a sense of calm and well-being and gratitude. If we can feel a little bit of that right now, so good. So good. Connie says, today people are not very spiritual. It's hard to get them to meditate. I started to touch on this before. We live in fortunate times. There's lots of things that you can come in contact with. Not everyone is interested in these sorts of things, and they don't have to be. We don't have to be concerned about that. If one person in a group of 100 is different, upgraded, more positive, living in a more balanced, harmonious way, that has a spreading effect. And you all are becoming those people. You are all spreading coherence into the environment with the work that you're doing. Michael asking, have people expressed mortality feelings? I'm not in fear of death, but I've become a grandparent and I want to be around a bit longer to get to know my grandkids and get them to know me. Of course we're thinking about this. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why this self-care is so important. We need people with life experience, because from life experience comes wisdom. It is one of the great tragedies of what we're experiencing now, that we're losing so many people who have wisdom. And we'll recover from this and we'll move on. And we're going to be, it's an opportunity for us to be more attuned to intergenerational wisdom, because people are around for a while and they learn things. And to treasure that, both what we can pass on to those who are younger, especially grandchildren, and what we have to gain. I've been staying in close touch with my good friend who's a very, he's in his late 80s and here in London, and he's an old school actor, and such a pleasure to talk to for 5 or 6 minutes once a week, just to check in and say hello. If you can be in contact with those people, reach out. All right. Someone says, I'm going to do one last one and then we're going to move toward wrapping up. Richard, I've been doing a lot of yard work and fixing things in the house as my coping mechanism. Me too, Richard. Started jogging again, eating healthier as self-care. Both have a lot of physicality. I think that's really good. It's a way in. And one does want to be a little bit careful. Too much running actually starts to put us into the fight or flight response. Your body just starts to think it's running from a bear. Something like gardening, I think, is wonderful because it's repetitive and it's contemplative, and it's going to take you into a more settled state, and through the body is a way to access this. All right. There are more questions, of course, and we're not going to be able to get to this at all. I just want to, before I turn it back to Amy and to the Garrison team, I'd like to leave you with a thought, which is you're writing a story right now. There are going to be lots of stories written about this time. You're writing your personal narrative. And in 12 or 15 years, some young person who either was too young to remember or was born after is going to say to you, "What? You were there. You were there. You remember the before times, and you were there during the lockdown. What did you do? How did you get through this? And what's the story? What's the story that you're writing?" I ate a lot of processed food and put on a lot of weight, and my garden got completely taken over by weeds. Or, I consumed the news constantly, and felt worked up and worried the entire time. Or maybe part of your story is, I found some ways to take care of myself. I downloaded a meditation app. I finally found one that seemed to work for me, and I could listen to that, and that helped me stay a little bit grounded and calm. I tuned into some amazing talks by people who were world-renowned in development of spirituality, in ways of coming back to your essence. I did some physical exercise, and I got myself into a place that I actually felt better than I did before it all began. I stayed in contact with the people that I cared about, and I reached out to some people that I didn't know if they had other people reaching out to them. I did some things to take care of myself. First, I put on my oxygen mask, and then I did what I could to take care of other people. There are going to be people who come out of this better. There are going to be people who don't come through this. There are going to be losses, and we mourn that, and we feel what we feel for the people close to us and the people that we hear about. There are going to be people who just kind of get through and maybe are not as good on the other side. We're writing the story, and I would encourage you to write your best story. Start writing it now. This is all of you. This is me. Normally, after something like this, we'd be in person, and I'd shake some hands and embrace some people even. But instead, here's you, here's me, and here's us. And maybe we'll be doing this gesture more, the namaskar gesture from India, which really is, it's not socially appropriate for me to hug you, but I'd like to. Oh, thank you so much. If I could hug you, I would. If I could shake your hand, I would. Thank you so much. Be well. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. De-excite. Tune in. Be good. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Michael, for being with us today. I feel much calmer and happier. I hope you all do too. Our next session is Monday, May 4th with Jessica Mori. Please continue to check in with garrisoninstitute.org for updated listings of future sessions, and view the recording of this call and others. Again, we provide these sessions for free. If you would like to support this effort, please consider making a donation at garrisoninstitute.org. May everyone be happy, healthy, and safe.